Hey guys, I know I was gonna do a daily post in regards to the court case. I went on, there was day 1, day 2, day 3. Day 4 and day 5, I didn't go. And that was mostly because for me personally, day 3 was it was much more heavier than I thought it would be. At one point, one of the defense attorneys from the other case said, it's a lot, right? And I was just like, yeah. And then, I had this guy trying to argue with me, telling me that I was wrong, that we were scapegoating the social workers. And I got really agitated and really emotionally charged because I was angry. I was angry because of the things I heard. I sat in the same courtroom as this guy and I was angry. I was upset, but I was angry. And the reason I was angry is because the day that I was there, day 3, we didn't just have the testimony of the hotline social worker, because he did come back, he finished his testimony, but we also had testimony from the coroner. And I had never seen the testimony from the coroner. I did know certain aspects of what was seen and the torture that Gabriel went through prior to death. And there was I guess there's a certain thing where you hear somebody tell you something and you read something, but then when you have somebody who's an eyewitness account, who was there, who, it's a different, I think it's just a different feel to it, especially because it's a coroner, and a coroner usually has that, feel of, I already have been there, this is something normal to them and whatever. But one of the things that happened was the coroner talked about, there was different definitions given, definitions for acute and stuff like that. Just things about timing, and there was also a definition between what a scar is and what an injury is, and just kind of really pinpointing the differences. As you may or may not know, a scar is a lifetime mark that will always remain on your body, whereas an injury could or could not turn into a scar. It's it's something that's there, something that's being worked on now. Your body's working on it now. So what happened is that there was this testimony done by the coroner, and at one point he said that Gabriel had injuries and scars on his back. So injuries, I understood that was something that was happening, but the scars is what really messed me up, because scars are obviously months older, or months old, not just days, whereas the injuries were probably days or weeks, but the scars were older. And what got to me was the idea when he said that there were scars on Gabriel's back. I turned to the person sitting next to me and I said, "You mean to tell me that all the social worker had to do was lift up his shirt? I mean, that's all she had to do? Just lift up his shirt?" An actual examination of his body, which can be done in front of the parent, it can be done on the side, but all the social worker had to do was lift up his shirt, and she would have seen that there were scars on his back. I don't know any child that regularly just has scars on their back. So for this person to argue with me after lunch that we're scapegoating these social workers, and that all the social workers do the same, and they're all the same, and they all just, they sign off on each other's works, and they're basically, what he was telling me is that we're scapegoating these social workers, and they're all falsifying documents all over the place. All the social workers are falsifying documents, and we're supposed to be okay with this. This is okay, as long as we don't scapegoat these particular social workers. And then he went on to try to tell me about how wonderful Gregory Merritt is and how he's been trying to change the system. But I've had, from various people in our community tell me how Gregory Merritt has treated them, and how he's talked to them, and how he's been with them, and how it was a horrible experience to have to deal with him. So I'm inclined to believe you guys over this person who wants me to believe that we're scapegoating the social workers, when all she had to do was lift up his shirt. That's it. Then she could have seen that there was marks all over his body. The testimony that came after the coroner was from a social worker who was also involved, but not in the same way that these 4 that are on trial were. I listened to his testimony. I took notes about how the system works in their system. I was very interested in finding out that there was a lot of things that weren't done, and how they just kind of, it's a really interesting system. But I'll tell you what, it just took a lot out of me. We were there from 8:45 in the morning, had lunch from 12 to 1:30, and then we were there until about 4:45. And the next day I was just exhausted, and I could not comprehend what I had heard. I could not get over the fact that all she had to do, I still can't get over it. All she had to do was lift up his shirt and see the scars, and or at that, at any point in time between January and May, seeing whatever, injury he may have had, because, they might not have been scars at that point. They might have been new injuries. Another interesting point that they brought up when they were talking to the coroner, and, it's one thing about children is that they are so strong, and children have these defense mechanisms that most adults don't have. And this is why you'll find traumatic events don't affect them so specifically as they do adults. Because with children, there are cases, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but there are cases in which a child's brain will find a way to protect the child by building walls, or building false memories, or by building other ways to protect the child. And in normal cases, sometimes it happens with adults also, where there's something will happen, and you'll have this false memory, or this false, or consider a blackout. Sometimes people will black out, even maybe from alcohol, but that's your brain shutting down, or protecting you, and then taking over. Not always the best thing, but your brain does do these weird, intricate things. But one of the things they kept bringing up was the fact that Gabriel didn't express pain as one would think. Interesting enough is that I have a high tolerance for pain. So my expression of pain is usually by body heat, and I usually do not scream or make much noise when I have pain. Whereas there's people out there who get a pinch and will scream as though they have just been shot or are being murdered. So everybody's body is different. Everybody responds differently to pain. Pain moves up, through your skin, up through the back of your neck, and to your brain cells and through the synapses, and they start firing, and they will fire, into whatever area that triggers the pain. I want to say it's a hippocampus, but I don't quite remember right now. But it'll signal. And however that signal goes, I mean, that's just the way your brain works. That's just the way you work. So not everybody experiences pain the same way, i.e., men will never have an understanding of how women feel when they have babies. It's just not going to happen until men become women, but then they wouldn't be called men. They'd become women. So with that being said, they kept asking about his expression of pain, if he would express pain the same way, because there was times in which when he was at school, he didn't want to walk because his feet hurt or his legs hurt or his arms hurt. But he wouldn't expressly state why they hurt, but that they did hurt. So that was definitely a thing that they talked about. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know precisely what happened today. I know yesterday there was more of testimony from the social worker that he's now a supervisor over at in, I think, Lancaster, he said, and he had worked with the Force Social. Well, he had previously worked under Baum and knew Stephanie Rodriguez, and then he became a supervisor himself, and I guess worked on the same level as Baum. Something to that. I have notes about it, but I just didn't bring them out because I'm on my way to from visiting my kids. So there was to me, like, listening to him, that was kind of interesting, just to hear what was done and what was not done, what should have been done and what wasn't done. So that was definitely interesting that day, but I don't think I would have been able to sit through another day of that. It was a little tedious and extensive, because in order to get to certain things, you have to lead somebody to those questions or to those answers, and it got to be a little much for me. However, I will probably be back on Monday, and I will leave you with one funny thing that happened in court that day. So the coroner is on the stand, and he has just been given his testimony to the people, and attorney number 1 has gone up, who is Bob's attorney, and now attorney number 2, who is Rodriguez's attorney, goes up and he asks, he says, hello, Dr. blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the doctor's name. It's like, hello. He's like, I'd like to know, have you ever worked as a medical doctor? And the coroner said, yes, I am a medical doctor. And I can't even tell you that it should have been a very serious moment, but me and the 3 attorneys that were sitting in the back kind of just giggled, because it was just like, well, you're talking to somebody who you just called doctor, and you're asking him if he's a doctor, working, especially he's a coroner, he works in the medical, of course he's a doctor. So it was a really interesting, that was really interesting. But other than that, I think, yeah, I mean, one of the defense attorneys said to me, I think right before lunch or something, he said, it's a lot to take in, right? It's tough. And I was just like, yeah, now, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it is. All right, guys. Well, that's all I'm going to say about it today. I'm sorry I couldn't make it for the past 2 days, and that this update's so late, but I kind of knew that I would have to skip a couple days after I left there that night. So I look forward to coming back to you next week on Monday and talking more about the case. And please subscribe here. And if you have any questions, just ask. I have no problem answering them the best that I can. And yeah, if you can make it, cool. If you can't, don't worry about it. I'm there. I will cover it. I will sit through and try to figure out what's going on. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you for stopping by, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.